Hello YouTube. Today I wanted to make another quick video after losing my hardcore SSF Huntress character last night. I made it all the way up to the Valley of Titans in Act 5. Things were going great. I was going down the left side of the very edge of the left side of the map until I encountered a wisp. And instead of waiting for the wisp to move on and dissipate, I thought I'd just follow it, and probably ignore it and maybe lose it later on, depending on what mobs I ran into. I basically thought, what's the worst that can happen? Well, the worst thing happened. I've chased it all the way into the middle of a very large pack of those collapsing skeletal colossi, and I basically got stun locked and ended up dying. It was also very painful because I saw it coming, and evasion was working back to back to back until it didn't, and there was nothing I could do. I thought about pausing and, resetting to the latest checkpoint, but, where's the fun in that? How do you learn lessons if you don't suffer catastrophic losses? I certainly don't. So, for education purposes, I ended up losing my character. To be honest, I was starting to get limited by my loot and how much damage I was doing and that sort of thing. I will be talking about that a little bit later, especially before next week's patch, which, while I'm very excited about, I think it needs more to it, unless they decide to add more to the patch notes in the upcoming few days. We'll see. But in its current state, while it's a good step in the right direction, I don't think we're in the right spot for it just yet. I still have some issues with some of the maps in the campaign. And let's be real, when you have issues with maps in the campaign, that translates to the endgame maps, and problems are pretty much the same. So I'll be talking about that a little bit, and a couple of minor bugs and whatnot. But first I want to talk about the Huntress and what I think about it. It doesn't deserve a whole video on its own. It's not like the Warrior where there are a lot of issues. I found it to be very entertaining to play. Just to clear this up, the way I like playing this game is, while in Path of Exile 1, I like to do my Path of Building, planning beforehand. I like being a POB warrior. I enjoy that aspect of everything. But for Path of Exile 2, I want to enjoy the period we have before Path of Building is very efficient, before everyone's importing and exporting their builds. I kind of want to experience this Wild West of builds. And so I don't read about any builds. I make up and I allocate my skills on the fly. I don't have Path of Building for Path of Exile 2. I will eventually get to it, but I kind of want to discover things, make mistakes, and suffer on my own, because it's always satisfying when I learn something from it and my next character goes a little bit further. And one of these days, I will make it to the end game in Hardcore SSF. Just not today. So we'll see. So when it comes to the Huntress, as I said, because I like playing my own builds and whatnot, and because I already played elemental builds with my monk, which was the previous character to this, I wanted to go pure physical, and I wanted to try bleed. I saw that there were some supports added that would help bleed along, and so I wanted to commit to it fully. And I like the rake skill simply because, you click it and it does some traveling for you. And I've always liked bleed and as a concept in general in RPGs and other ARPGs as well. So it was a fun experiment for me. But here is my first problem with it. On the tree, by the way, this could be the most inefficient tree there is out there. I fully accept. I'm sure there are better ways to play it. But the point I'm going to make is, I think, important regardless of how well I've allocated my points. And it's that when you get to the bleed nodes close to your Huntress start, there's one group here and there's one group here. They seem to push you in the direction of using Incision. I've also noticed a couple of support gems that sort of make Incision happen. And I think with a Huntress, I don't think you really want Incision, because if you're playing Bleed Huntress, you're gonna use Rake as it is, and maybe use the Lacerate skill gem on your secondary skill that you end up using. For me, I used Rake a lot, and I used Disengage to open the distance. If I've built up enough of a bleed magnitude, Blood Hunt's always fun. But my main secondary skill was Spearfield, which, by the way, after the buff, is fantastic to play. It's really entertaining. The only problem with it is if you're fighting a boss that doesn't move, that sort of stands in the middle and just casts spells, it's not as fun. You really need aggravation to work in that case, and, well, you can't really get aggravation to work because it's really far away on the tree. There's one group of nodes here, and there's one here. You could aggravate with this node if you could critically hit, but reliably in the campaign, you're not going to really critically hit. At least I haven't been able to make it work with all the limitations and the lack of currency drops, which I will get into in a little bit. But yeah, your only options are to either travel all the way for reliable aggravation. You either have to travel all the way here, take this keystone, which decreases your base bleeding to 1 second from 5, which makes the window to be able to pull off skills like Blood Hunt a lot less. Incision, I mean, I guess if you're playing a bow build, if you're playing Ranger instead of Huntress, maybe Incision works better, but I still feel like you would end up using your Lacerate skill gem and want to go for more magnitude builds. I feel that that would be better because in essence, as you build up more and more Incision, it's not that practical because once you get your bleed, which will be pretty regular, you would rather take the Incision nodes and give it to something else like magnitude. So I will test it further with other builds, but I think the bleed nodes on the Huntress side of the tree need a little bit of work. I don't think Incision is the way to go. But hey, what do I know? Another issue with this side of the tree is Coming of Calamity is a great node, but maybe it's an oversight. There's nothing on the tree that buffs Herald of Blood, which is what you want to use on a bleed build. I don't know if they didn't add it because of balance issues or if there's anything else, but we need some way to buff our Herald of Blood, and I think this would be a fun way to get it going, especially with the damage drop-off that you experience in the Cruel Acts, unless you have the latest and flashiest weapon that you can use for your level, which, as I said before, is kind of a big issue. But other than that, it's really fun. One more thing. If you want to aggravate with tier 2 support gems, you need to do it with a pin build-up skill. I believe the support gem that aggravates bleeding only apply it when you've pinned an enemy, and I don't think you really want to pin enemies. And even if you did, I think that you're wasting a slot. You're wasting essentially a gem slot, which you have a very limited number of. Let's be real, in the campaign, you're lucky if you ever see the 4th one. I still haven't. I mean, I've tried getting 3. I've dropped a decent amount of lesser Jeweler's Orb, but anything above, the Greater and the Perfect Jeweler's Orb, I have yet to see at all, let alone in the campaign. Like, I've never seen it. So you're kind of limited with what you can do. Those spaces are limited, and I find that therefore also trying to allocate a pin build would be inefficient, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm going to try and test it a bit further. And as a spear user, I would like poison to work. I understand that the idea is maybe for bows, poison is easier to get, and for spears, bleed is easier to get. Maybe they want to balance it that way, but why not have both, Why not give us some skills, or at least allow us to share some skills that would help us go either way, for those of us that like dot builds. I know that for poison, there's a level 3 support gem that converts all bleeding to poison, and I have yet to try it. I will get around to it eventually, but again, you're giving up one of your very rare slots for something that just converts the damage, and it feels like you would be better off just using a more impactful gem there, because when you're using the support gem that just changes bleed to poison, you're essentially just it's just a variation. You're kind of nerfing yourself to try something different, and I don't think that's very fun to do. It's fun as a challenge, but in terms of power fantasy or character fantasy, if you want to play a poison spear, it's kind of limiting, which adds to the general criticism about the game that the skill system feels a little limiting. I think these small factors really contribute and add to the frustration to make it feel worse than it really is. So, having a couple of poison skills for spear, at least allowing us to share it with the bow, may help alleviate those issues. I'm just checking. Spear of Solaris seems disappointing if you're playing a physical build. It really feels like you need to get the elemental buff, elemental damage attack buff nodes on the tree for it to work properly. And that's sad because on the final tier of your spear skills, there's nothing suitable really for physical builds. And I think it's a missed opportunity. Give us something. GGG. I find that in general, the final tier of skills are a little underwhelming. But that's another issue. We're talking about Huntress and Spears for now. And yeah, I think we could do with more than just 2 skills at the end of the gems for spear skills in general. As I said, not having 4 links available until the very late game, not having it available in the campaign, again, it adds to the limiting factor, and it adds to the frustration, basically. So those are just my general points on Huntress, but bear in mind, I still had fun playing it, and I will try it again. Maybe I'll end up trying the elemental version of it, but it didn't work out this time, basically. So please do let me know if I'm wrong on this issue. I would like, while I don't like going out of my way to research builds, any pointers like, oh no, actually bleed is fine, Incision's really good, you should give it a chance, maybe try this. If there's something I'm missing, I'd like to hear it. So, moving on from the Huntress, I want to talk about some of the map issues. The last patch made a lot of the maps in Act 3 smaller, and it shows. It feels, for most of them, it feels better. Matlan Waterways is still very long. I mean, I tried it with this character when I was doing Act 3 with this character, and she has 20 move speed, along with several move speed nodes on the tree. And on top of that, when you're going through enemies with Rake, you're already moving faster as well. You've got a travel skill built in. And even with her, it took me about 8 minutes to get through the whole thing. And the issue there is, you fight the same mobs over and over again, and it gets old very quickly. And as you pull each lever, you're just thinking to yourself, man, this has to be the last one. After a couple of them, you lose track of how many more you have to pull, and it just adds to the monotony, I guess. Like, for example, I know it's been shortened and we have to pull on average 6 levers less than before, but like it should be way more. We should be pulling maybe a little more than half of what we're pulling now. So I do think GG should take another look at the Mapland Waterways map. Thankfully, it's linear, so you don't run into dead ends, which is my big issue with the game's maps. That it's been my #1 issue since I first played the game last December. There are way too many dead ends. You find yourself lost in mazes. The maps are too mazy. There's no other way to put it. The reason why I'm in the Grim Tangle with this character right now is I ran it with my level 55 Amazon, and just to draw this map for you. And I want to show you what that map looks like. This is how that map looks. And let me just do this so you can see that the start of the map, let's choose our brush and then go to view. Sorry. And let's draw a line from the start all the way down to the exit, which is here. Just making sure that you guys can see it. Yep. So your most ideal route is you'll come down here. Like, this is after we have the map open to us, obviously. Like, this is the shortest route, right? I mean, you're going to want to do the boss. So after you've done the boss, you're going to come down here. And you're going to leave. So when I'm talking about dead ends, I really, really find this to be one of the most frustrating aspects in the game. Generally, when you start, you know it's going to be on the opposite side, so I get that, you know, you'll avoid this mostly. You know that it's not going to be this way. However, pretty much everything else is a trap. You don't know how you're going to go down, so maybe you want to try this first. You want to try from left to right, and man, you're stuck here. And it's frustrating because sometimes as you come down here, you don't even see that this is going to be a dead end, and the way the corridors are in this map, it's just a nightmare. You've got another dead end here. You've got this whole section here. You've got this entire section here, and you never know, so you keep trying this. You go down. You've got this entire section here. You've got this. It's just too many dead end zones. Like, when you hit this particular area, you think, oh, maybe I need to go. Oh, no, that's not it. And then you come back and you think, well, you know me. Oh, no. Definitely not that. I mean, looking bad at it, this isn't too bad. Maybe 1 or 2 dead ends is fine, I guess. You could have this. It's kind of on your way, so you wouldn't waste a lot of time. But other than that, it's too much. Like, all of this is too much. And this is a problem that repeats over and over and over again on several maps. You keep running into dead ends, and it's just not fine. Maybe if there were more events, I'm thinking, would it be better? But it's still very annoying. That, like, it would have to be really good rewards at the end of those dead ends, and you're not going to give us that many good rewards, and you shouldn't. Last epoch. But, you know, maybe scale the maps back a little bit. Let's run into way less dead ends. It would help a lot. Another map I have a lot of problems with in Act 1 is Freythorn. The issue with Freythorn is, let me just, at the risk of flashbanging you a little bit, let's just... the issue with Freythorn is you have these zones where you fight, right? And there's a lot of them. Like, you're talking like this. And this will be the boss arena, right? And you'll have a bunch here. And you'll have one maybe really big one in the middle. And on top of that, you have these little areas. And the pathways are all crisscross. You've got these little tiny bridges that you have to walk through. And on top of that, there always seems to be a pattern where, you know, let's say, there always seems a pattern where you'll have the circles, the ritual circles. 2 will be right next to each other. You'll find these back to back, but the other one will be on the other side of the map, next to the boss map. And if you knew that it was always on the opposite side of your starting zone, let's say this is your start, this is your entrance, it would kind of be more tolerable, but sometimes the boss zone is on this side, you know. Sometimes it can be up here. It's very frustrating. And the issue with a lot of dead ends here as well, areas where there are no events or nothing to do, these very narrow bridges are a nightmare to get through, especially if you're a melee character. And you've got those mobs with the purple flowers. You know, they'll crowd the bridge. I haven't died on this map, but you always, it's always, I hate using the word, but it's a slog. You have to be extra careful. It's, even though it's better now after the changes to the behavior of the mobs in this zone, it's still a bit of an issue for me. It feels a lot slower, especially after you do the open area, the map before this. I think it's called the Hunting Grounds, where it's very open, and you have actually 3 really good events. You've got the Crowbell fight, you've got the Guaranteed Rare fight, And if you feel like it, if your build's good enough, you've got the ritual in the middle, and it's a big open map, and you've got a lot of mobs, and you've got a lot of space to fight them. Feels great. After that, when you come down here, it's just... I hate it every time. Every time I start a new character, the few maps that I'm afraid to do, this one, the Grim Tangle, which we discussed, pretty much all of Act 3 still, unfortunately. Act 3 is... It's a lot better, but it really needs a bit more work. I'm constantly very, very frustrated by it. So yeah, less dead ends, less maps with tiny, narrow passageways. A couple of them are fine, but I find that this format is reality for a lot of these maps. Oh, the Tombs of Draven and Assinia. Too many dead ends there as well. It's just very... You could learn the layouts all you want. The fight is always either off-center to the left or right of the middle, or on one of the opposite sides. Sometimes even on the same side as the entrance. It's just frustrating. Way too many dead ends. We talked about the Matlan waterway and how it's still very long. It would help if that's lowered by a significant amount. Now, one area that's mazy that doesn't feel bad the first time you run through it is the Maudan Quarry. That map's great the first time you run through it, though. First time you run through it, you get a lot of whetstones, you get a lot of armor scraps, and it just feels good to run. And you're not worried about crashing into dead ends, because at the end of the day, you get good loot from it. My issue is, I think, and we're moving into the loot part now from maps. So this is a bit of a shared issue. My issue with places like the Maudan Quarry is, after your first run, maybe I'm really unlucky. After the first time I run through it with my fresh new character, I find that I don't drop enough quality currency as I did the first time through. Like, there will be no way near enough whetstones and armor scraps that drop through. Maybe I'm really unlucky, as I've said, but on several characters now, I've tried running through it 4 or 5 times, and apart from the first time through, both the first time you run through it in Act 5 and Act 2, they drop a lot and then it's gone. If we're willing to slow ourselves down in the campaign and farm an area over and over and again, I think we should be able to get a few more drops that we're specifically looking for. And it would help. Again, I'm not sure. Please let me know in the comments if I'm wrong about this, if it's actually very farmable and I was just unlucky. But I've tried it on several characters, and it always seems like second, third, and fourth time, I barely drop any. And I mean, almost none. So, now that we've talked about that, let's move on to the loot issues. The patch that's coming next week is... My cat is rubbing up against my leg and distracting me. I'm sorry. In fact, I have to pay the cat tax. This is the cat. Say hi to the camera. I'm sure she says hi. Anyway, so I was talking about loot. The next patch that's coming, the 0.2.OG, OG, the G patch that's coming, the loot, they talked about adding loot on campaign bosses, improving the quantity and quality of the loots that's dropping from map bosses, and sort of getting rid of unlucky streaks, which is welcome, don't get me wrong. It's very frustrating when you run through a whole act, kill the act boss, and you get, like, only blues. It's happened a few times. And it never feels great. So it's a good step in the right direction. Buffing wisps, again, fine. It's something. You run into them fairly frequently. When it's not bugged, sometimes I'll run into the wisp NPC. What's his name? I don't know what he's called. Hang on, I think we had his name here. Oh no, he's disappeared. I forgot the name, but you know, you see the NPC and the wisp, the music plays and the wisps aren't there. Maybe they spawn. There's a bug with the spawning. I'm sure they'll fix it eventually. But yeah, adding more quality loot drops to the wisps is fine. Adding it to specific instances in the end game is great. There should be even more, in all honesty. But the unlucky streak, the smoothing of the curve for loot drops, honestly, it should apply to even rares, maybe even regular mobs, because I want to show you a screenshot when I died with this character, with the one I talked about, the Huntress, I had dropped only 9 exalts until, like, just past the middle of Act 5. So, and by the way, 2 of these exalts, they dropped just in the map before I died. So in the Undercity of Keth. So we're talking about 7 exalts that dropped throughout that whole campaign, and 7 exalts is not enough to do anything. The regal drops were incredible. I was surprised with how many regals that dropped, and the orbs of alchemy were great, but at the end of the day, when you want to finish off your item, you need those exalts. And man, it was not enough. Speaking of why this is a big issue, this character, the buckler, I only have 3 affixes on it. The amulet, only 4 affixes. I used an orb of alchemy on it. I got lucky with the affixes, but I'd like to point out that I started wearing this halfway through Act 2, and when I died in the middle, pretty much the exact same area in Act 5, I was still wearing it. So we're talking about using the same amulet for 25 levels because I just couldn't replace it. Ring, again, Orb of Alchemy did during the... I think this was also in the middle of Act 2, when I needed lightning res. You know, the life modifier is fine, and I thought, oh, actually, it's only 3. So this was probably a transmute, augment, and just a regal, and then I just had to go with it. This one, only 3 affixes. The gloves, only 4 affixes. The belt, I'm very proud of. I hit a really good Orb of Alchemy with 91 max life, and then I even added an extra Exalt on it, but I think it gave me thorns, which was very disappointing. Boots are better. The mask, I gambled the mask, so it's fine, and I also gambled the chest. So these 3, the ones with a lot of stats, I gambled. I couldn't craft them by myself. And all of the other exalts that I used, it just bricked every item. In fact, I'd like to show you something very quickly. Going back to hardcore, to show you my inventory, I just need to show you my stash. And the dire situation it's in. Oh. So, when I was playing my Huntress, and I was trying to find spears that work. These are all spears that I half-crafted. I crafted, but I semi-bricked, but I couldn't get rid of it. I was afraid to sell it, because maybe it's my only chance. And this goes on. Like, this is from the previous character, when I needed a lot of quarter stave. I mean, again, a lot of staffs. I had to do a lot of staves. These are all staffs that have a little bit of potential that I plan to craft if I ever get around to dropping the currency that is needed to be able to do it. Lycan crafts even more spears here that I'm trying to get to work. Even more staves here. It's as you saw, with 9 exalts dropping in the whole campaign, with 7 most of it, you're never basically finishing a craft. And while I know the game shouldn't be balanced around SSF, I know SSF is just a challenge mode. It's something that we masochists bring onto ourselves. I do think there needs to be some consideration to how easy items and currency drops are, about how often we're able to come by these drops in SSF, because it reflects on the trade league. And the frustration, like, if everyone was happy in the trade league, I'd understand maybe being standoffish, but nobody's happy with the loot drops in any capacity. So while not balancing it entirely on SSF, give us a little bit of love, GGG, please. I mean, the runes, for example. It's an interesting idea, it's kind of fun, but it's no replacement for the crafting bench. And believe me, I'm okay with a good system that replaces the crafting bench. But the issue is, compared to PoE 1, we can't craft on our rings and amulets. So that's 3 pieces of our 10-piece inventory that we can't add runes to, that we could with our crafting bench. Our weapon can't carry any defensive affixes, so if you're looking for some extra stats or some extra... Well, I think we can get stats on our Let me just check. We can get stats on our weapon, can't we? Yeah, we can get stats on our weapon, but we can't get resistances on our weapon. And in Path of Exile 1, when I was really stuck for resistances, I could just slap something on my weapon to bridge the gap, and we can't do that in this game. And another big issue is simply it's hard to find the drops you need for those runes. Like, I have one Lesser Desert rune that I dropped just before the character died, and I was struggling for fire res the whole campaign. And as you saw, with few exalts, with essences that you can only use for the first affix of your weapon, that inevitably ends up being trashed because the augment doesn't hit, or the regal doesn't hit, or the exalts after that don't hit. It adds to another layer of the frustration. As I mentioned in my loot video, we need more items of currency that give us more bang for our buck. Every single bit of currency that we use right now, except for Orb of Alchemies, give us one affix for one currency item. And that just feels bad. Because you need to get the transmute to work. Okay, you got the transmute to work, you need the augment to work. Maybe you're lucky and you looted something off the ground, a magic item off the ground that has the two affixes that you want. That's fantastic. Well, now you've got to regal it, and you hope you get something good. Most of the time, it's not going to be something good. Let's say you've got a surplus of exalts, and you think to yourself, you know what, I'm going to risk it. Maybe I'll get a good third affix that I'm looking for on my fourth slam, and you don't get it. Now you've spent a regal and an exalt on an item that you're going to either trash or sell, or it's going to end up in your bank just waiting to never be used. So please, in the next patch, don't limit it to just wisps and campaign bosses. Just give us more loot, please. Trust me, after playing Last Epoch, and again, that's a great game, but the loot situation is a problem there. But I'd rather drown in riches than starve to death, if that makes sense. So we really need a little bit of love in that area. Anything else with loot? Let me check. By the end of Act 3, it's just better to sell all your rare items instead of breaking them, instead of disenchanting them, because you're just going to get better stuff from gambling, and that's how it is. Loot needs to be buffed because, again, with the Huntress that I played, I think throughout the entirety of Act 5 and the end of Act 4, the only yellow loot I got was from Geonor when he died, and like 2 items at the start of Act 5. I was starved for currency, I was starved for rares. Every gold coin I ended up looting, I spent on gambles, and they don't work most of the time. You need a lot of money for gambles to work out, so basically we need more for loot. I can keep talking for hours on this. I can give more and more examples, but we really need a lot more in the loot department. And those are the main issues I have. I'm sorry, this was more unstructured from my previous videos. I'm trying something out where I'm not reading from the screen directly. I'm trying to be more free-flowing. I don't know how that is for you. Please let me know in the comments as well if you end up watching this. It really means a lot to me when I get any feedback of any sort. The last 3 points I want to talk about are minor bugs and notes. When you play with the controller, right here, you see your gold count right here. But that's not available in keyboard and mouse. Please, GGG, if you end up seeing this, or people who have pull with GGG, please tell them to add the gold counter on the UI so we don't have to keep checking our inventory for the gold counter. Sometimes when you lag out and the game pauses, the enemy will still get an attack off. I almost died to the replay. The clip is on the YouTube channel. I would play it now, but I don't want this video to go on any longer. It's already 35 minutes. So, I don't know what's good. Whenever the game freezes, should we just Alt F4? Does it help? I don't know. Please let me know. But again, I almost lost a character twice yesterday to disconnects and pauses. And finally, when you're playing with the Herald of Blood, for some reason when you level up, there's a visual bug where you get a really long red bar on top of your normal character's health bar. It's clearly a visual bug, and if you change the instances, it's fixed. It's very annoying. Please, I've been hoping that they fixed it for the last however many patches and hotfixes. Surprisingly, it's still there. Please, if anyone from GGG ever sees this, or if someone who watches this can get to GGG, please. I've tried writing it on the forums. I don't know if it got any traction. We need a fix. It's awful. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, it was a very long video. Thank you for watching, and please let me know what you think. If this doesn't work, I'm going to go back to reading from the screen. I'm not sure what works better. But yeah, let me know. And thank you. Have a good day.